Hi and welcome to this VATPAC training video on basic VRC settings, and this is targeted towards budding tower controllers. One of the most common questions we receive when students go for their tower rating is just the basics on how to operate their VRC controller software. We find that as an observer a lot of these functions you're not able to practice them, so we'll just go through some of the more basic stuff and then go into how to update a flight plan, operate and manipulate a tag, and go through some of the functions in the right click menu. So here we have the basic VRC display. These are just the default colours. I've got the Melbourne TMA sector file loaded. What we're going to do is just first of all go through and do some basic settings for VRC. So what we're going to do is set up some of the colour profiles, because let's face it, these colours look awful. So we'll start by going up to the the settings menu, and we're going to select the TATS colour profile because that's a little bit more realistic to what we're used to seeing in Australia. We're also going to turn some options on for what we can see on our radar display. So we're going to turn on fixes. VORs are already turned on, NDBs, and we're going to turn our low airways and our high airways on. Now that fills up the screen pretty well. You can of course leave the airways turned off if you like, but I recommend starting with them on. It enables you to look at the designators for the airways, and when you've got an aircraft departing via a certain airway, it gives you a rough idea of what direction the aircraft is departing in. Okay, we're also going to set up our radar modes. So just go to the settings menu here, choose the radar mode that is labelled as tower, and what that does is enables you to see the tags of the aircraft that are on the ground at Melbourne. Now I'm zoomed out a fair way at the moment. This enables us to see the approaches for the runways at Melbourne. What I'm going to do is show you how to open up a second window, and we'll zoom that in on the Melbourne airfield there. So we'll go up to the file menu, go new window. It'll open up a window that's smaller than the one you've got, but it loads the same sector file as you've already got selected, and also selects the same radar mode. So we're just going to zoom that one right in. You can use your mouse wheel to zoom in and out, and the right click and drag to move the display around. So there we go. We've got a nice view of the Melbourne Airport. You've got the terminal buildings here with a few aircraft parked, the runways, and of course the taxiways. The other thing we're going to do is set up your communications frequency. So at the moment we're logged in as Melbourne Tower. We're just on a simulator session at the moment, so we're not actually on live on VATSIM. So we can just left click on the clock display there. That'll open up the communications window. And you can see I've got an approach frequency set up here. We're going to go to the next one down and just left click that box. We can name our position anything we like. You can call it Melbourne Tower or anything really. 120.500. Remember to use 3 decimal places on your frequency. The voice servers for VATPAC are rw1.vatpac.org. And the voice channel is what's listed on the ATC frequencies page at the VATPAC website. So in our case it's Melbourne_TWR for tower. Save changes, and of course I get an error message. Brilliant. There it is there. That's because this one's already set up, so that's fine. We'll cancel out of there and just choose the one we've already set up. So I've already got this as Melbourne Tower Trainer. We click the primary frequency checkbox and have that go through our speaker. What that does is puts the 120.5 frequency up there, so we know that's connected, and it gives us also a reading there saying that's our frequency and we're on the headset. I can press my press to talk button now and you'll see the transmit light up. So we can close that now, and just while we're on press to talk, we'll go in and set or confirm that our press to talk button is set. That's done through the general settings menu. Hotkeys. Left push to talk is set to left control, and you can change that by just clicking in that box and setting whatever key you'd like to use. Hit apply. I've also got the aircraft select key set to something other than the default. I think the default is numberpad plus or something like that. I just set it to the tilde key, which is next to the 1 key on your keyboard, and that makes it a little bit easier to select aircraft later on. So we'll hit OK there. Something we can also do from the general settings menu is confirm that our visual range is correct. So in the Moodle course you would have learned that the maximum visual range for a tower position is 50 nautical miles. So we're going to go into the airspace tab and just confirm that target visibility range is no more than 50. We can also set our arrival field and our departure fields to Melbourne just by the ICAO code. Transition altitude in Australia is 10,000 feet, and we don't need a radar floor. These arrival and departure fields really just control what appears in your arrivals and departures list, and that can be accessed by the tools menu in the aircraft list there. So we've got departures, 3 aircraft departing Melbourne, 1 aircraft arriving Melbourne, and if you change the ICAOs in there you can get various other aircraft showing up. You can actually comma separate those ICAO codes, so if we were interested in Essendon as well we could do that. Now that won't change what shows up in that aircraft list because there's actually nobody on the ground or coming into Essendon, but if you could imagine that would also show Essendon aircraft on that list. The other thing we need when we're controlling tower is of course we need to identify a runway that we're going to use, and for that we need to know what the wind direction is and the weather conditions. So we can do that by going down the bottom here. We can use the F2 key, then type in the ICAO for Melbourne. And what that does is brings us up a nice little box here with the current wind speed and direction for Melbourne and the QNH for Melbourne at the moment. If we left click that box there, it will bring up the full METAR string for Melbourne, so we can get some cloud conditions and so on and so forth. Okay, still getting set up here. What we're going to do next is to set an ATIS. So again, through the settings menu and into ATIS Maker. ATIS Maker sort of spells out what we need to do, fairly straightforward. Airport ICAO code is already entered there as Melbourne. We need an ATIS code for Melbourne. Let's start with November. And in the top section here, controller info template. This is the area that displays, if you've been flying around on VATSIM, this is the information that displays when you first connect to the controller's frequency. So often this will just say something simple like ATIS available on this frequency. For demonstration purposes, I've got a full text ATIS entered in to the controller info template, and that's just because when I'm connected to the Sweatbox server, I don't want to interfere with the ATIS frequency for Melbourne on VATSIM, so I don't actually want to set up a voice ATIS at the moment. I will show you how it's done, but just for now I just want to keep it offline. But you can see there I've followed the standard VATPAC template for an ATIS. That can be found on the VATPAC website under the policies section, the VATPAC ATIS policy. And it allows us just to abbreviate a lot of the information that we find. So we'll follow the METAR down the bottom to generate a new ATIS for Melbourne. So it's Melbourne information November. We're going to expect a visual approach. We're going to change that to an ILS approach on runway 16. The wind direction is a little bit different tonight. It's 260 at 5 knots. The visibility is greater than 10 kilometers, and that's indicated in the METAR string by 4 nines, but in our ATIS we'll just say 10 plus. Cloud is quite long-winded this evening, so we've got few clouds at 030, that's at 3,000 feet, broken at 4,600. And also broken at flight level 200. The temperature is not too far, it's more like 07, and the QNH is 1028. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just say refresh that, and that will lock in that controller info down the bottom here. So the top window is the template where you enter in the data. The middle window is what's actually being sent out to the pilots at the moment. Okay, that looks good. Down in the bottom window here, I'm also going to just paste that ATIS in the bottom there. And what that allows me to do is to read the ATIS as I record. Okay, so we've got our ATIS voice room set, same voice server as everything else. We've got the voice ATIS frequency of 132.7 for Melbourne, and we're going to go in and record the ATIS. And that's a simple case of going into clicking the record ATIS button. That gives you the template of whatever you've entered into the voice ATIS template. You can make that more text based if you like, so you could say enter in Melbourne terminal information November, and that gives you a more detailed script of what to read out. So you go in there, hit the record button and say Melbourne terminal information November, expect incident approach runway 16, winds 260 degrees at 5 knots, visibility greater than 10 kilometers, cloud few at 3000, broken 4600, broken flight level 200, temperature 07, QNH 1028, advise on initial contact, you have received November. Hit the record button again to stop recording, play it back to yourself. That sounds good. Hit the save button. Now before we leave this window, what we'll do is we'll hit the connect button, and what that will do is open up the Melbourne ATIS frequency of 132.7. We can of course change this information back to ATIS available, learn to spell, on 132.7 and leave it at that, refresh. So the pilot, when they connect to your frequency of 120.5, will receive this information and be reminded to get the ATIS from this frequency. So we'll hit that connect button and that will be loaded up and playing out to the pilots. I'm not going to do that tonight though.